Okay.
We're back.
We're back. Okay, so now is you, Lon.
Yes. And I picked the movie Dune.
All right,
Let's see that.
that's not it. There we go. Where are you?
Yeah, where is it?
Where is it, George?
There it is.
There it
Where?
is.
There's something happening to me. There's something awakening in my mind. I can't control it. What did you see? There's a crusade coming. Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them? Yes. The test is simple. Remove your hand from the box, and you die. What's in the box? Pain. You inherit too much power. You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others. Something none of your ancestors learned. My father rules an entire planet. He's losing it. He's getting a richer one. He'll lose that one too. Arrakis is a death trap. Kill them. This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one.
Let's fight like demons.
An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do? I know you. One day, the legend will be born. All of civilization depends on it. The future, I can see it. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
My Lord Duke.
Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
Go, go, go! You mean the Fremen?
Right?
I called them Freeman. I read it. I didn't.
Okay.
You know.
Now,
That's Lon.
I've only
really?
seen, I've never read the books because this is based on a Frank Herbert novel, which a very popular series of novels, if I'm not
Oh, yeah.
mistaken. I've only seen the movie, the 80s movie, Dino De Laurentiis movie.
Right.
And that's sort of how I remember the plot, because when I watched this movie,
You can tell it, right?
there is no plot seemingly in this movie. Very little dialogue. The characters are conveyed in a very strange way, in my opinion, because what happens is there are these houses that are sort of vying for power in, I guess, what you would call the empire. There is an emperor. He has ordered the House of Atreides to go to the planet of Arrakis to mine the spice.
Right.
Upseating the other house
Harnikins.
with the I'm just saying-
Harlequins.
Harkonnen.
Harkonnen, who are there, and they're the ones who basically discovered the spice and started mining it and making money. So they don't like the fact that they're being thrown off for someone else who's coming in. Now, the indigenous people don't know what to make of it either, because they don't like being under the emperor's rule
Right.
and are sort of rebellious. They don't really do much, but they sort of sabotage spice mining by the Harkonnens. But then they say, oh, we'll give this new Atreides house a try,
Right.
see what they do. He actually does sort of convey in one action that you see the fact that he's willing to sacrifice the spice manufacturing to save people,
Right.
which of course puts him sort of with the
Right.
indigenous people, sympathetic at least. They say, oh, at least he does care about people and not just about the money and the spice.
Right.
Now, for example, I still don't even understand while I'm watching after watching this entire movie what the spice is or does.
Yes.
Now, I'm only because I've seen the first movie, I sort of know.
Right.
They just talk about the spice and mining it and how much money it is.
Right.
So you're seeing this sort of basically on a corporate kind of global corporate level, or excuse me, a galaxial, or I don't know how you put it because it's in the universe.
Right.
What the Emperor he supposedly wants money that the Harkonnens are giving to him. So the spice production has to almost double because they shut down spice, wanted to change different houses governing the planet. They have to change it. So the Emperor's not getting as much money. So they have to hit the ground running and start making the spice. The Harkonnens have actually sabotaged some of the spice plants. So they're having problems there. But if I'm not mistaken, as Susie mentioned, the Fremen, these are the indigenous people of the planet, the Arrakis. These are the people who live in the desert, know the desert. And the one thing, for example, that the Emperor was supposed to do with that planet, if I'm not mistaken, the Harkonnens were supposed to be the ones to do that, is to basically make it habitable for the indigenous people, like making water plants and things like that.
Right.
Until they found the spice, and that's why they said, well, no, why should we do this?
Well,
This is more...
And they need the desert. The desert creates the spice.
Well, see, that's what I don't understand because they don't mention
The
what
worms.
this is.
Right.
Well, see, I assume it's the worms, and I said, I
Yes.
wonder if it's worm droppings. I always
Right.
had that sort of fantasy about that. Now you've read the book, so you're advantage of it. I really kept thinking it's got to be the worms, and then I keep thinking it's the worms who consume things and their droppings. That's the spice that
But
people.
remember,
How did you know
Warm,
that?
warm thunder.
the reason that
Yeah.
they Freemen all have blue eyes,
Right,
It's
it's because of
because
spice.
spice.
Exactly.
but the spice also creates intergalactic travel.
well, see, that's
That's how they do it with
that's
the spice.
what I understood in watching
So
the
we
first
should all
movie.
read the book.
Right. But this is not explained in this
No,
movie
no,
at
it's not.
all.
No.
Because that was my understanding that the spice it's basically like being in Rick and Morty, as I mentioned before.
Right.
That
Rick
you
and
can
Morty.
you can go through
Rick and
time and
Morty.
space.
Yes.
It
Yes,
just
that's
so
what it does.
anywhere. So again, they don't explain that in this movie. So while I'm watching this movie, I found it very dull because they're trying to throw so many characters at you.
Absolutely.
And there are little minor characters that you sort of don't understand because they get killed off pretty quickly as well. That it's like, oh no, but they were sort of a major part of understanding the
plot.
political and the social structure of what's going
Absolutely.
on. So that I think is missing, lacking. Now, I cannot deny that I didn't think any of the cast members were bad for what they had to work with.
Right.
Timothee Chalamet is playing the lead. He plays Paul Atreides. It is also believed that he might be a chosen one, only because at the beginning, what I love is that Charlotte Rampling at the beginning of the film is going to test him because he was raised with this fraction. I'm assuming you'd call it religion,
Right.
but they're Benezet witches. Is
The Besserek or Ben.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Gesserit.
Bene Gesserit.
Okay.
That's an order of witches who can do certain things, like they can speak a certain voice. They
Do
use a
call them
voice.
Witches?
That's what I know they called them in the first Dune.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I call them that.
I think in this one,
I
Because
think of them as priestess.
Well, no,
But-
that's what I'm saying.
Same
This
thing.
is a religious.
No.
They made
I-
it more religious because they said, yeah, an acolyte of the Bene
Yeah, I think they made a
Gesserit.
couple of witch references in this one.
And
Yeah.
they said like sisterhood and things like that. But what they do is, for example, Paul's mother, and
Yes.
she is a concubine. She's not the wife
Right.
of his father, who is basically the head of House Atreides. His son, of course, is going to inherit this, but he is the son also of a what I call I call her a witch, but I shouldn't. But Bene
Priestess.
Gesserit. So they have certain kind of powers that they learn, and she was teaching him this. Now, the mother of the order, played by Charlotte Rampling, says this is very dangerous. We do not we don't pass this knowledge on to men.
Right.
Because men have done bad things with it or have gone crazy or something like that.
Right.
So she has to test him. So the one test that he passes shows that, okay, he can at least control his whatever male power wants with this power. He can control it. And that's sort of the recognition that, okay, there is something different with Paul Atreides, that he does have, first of all, the knowledge of the mother, the knowledge of his father, and wisdom of the father. He has become a warrior due to two people, basically played by Jason Momoa and Josh Brolin. They're both sort of warriors in this who help them out. Again, heroically, and one of them, well, I don't even know what happens to both of them. I know one of them doesn't quite last the entire movie, but again, it's in that aspect of you are going to fight for your house. So once they are betrayed, I'm not giving anything away, they get to the planet, they're doing this, Harkonnens have now betrayed them. They've come in to basically, and this almost seems to be a ploy by the Emperor, as well as they had Benedict Arnold's in their own house. The House Atreides had their own.
Right.
And again, what's going to happen, we don't really know, except that somebody is a chosen one.
Right.
Paul Atreides may be this person, and he keeps having a dream about this woman.
Right.
Played by Zendaya. Now, I didn't know who Zendaya was, so that's the only name. At least I hope I'm pronouncing her name right.
I think you are.
Okay. And because of certain things, they land up in that camp. Now, unfortunately, this movie does not tell, in my opinion, the whole story. So most of the time, that's why I said I find this movie confusing, because I thought it was rather dull until they basically find or get into the desert. Once they get to the desert, now things are sort of making sense to where the Dune, the movie, the first one I saw, now we're getting it. You saw in the trailer, there's a sequence in which Paul is actually confronting one of the sandworms, because that's what they fear the most.
Right.
In fact, that's another aspect I love about it, because that seems to also be like almost a religious movement.
Right.
Because at one point, somebody who's helping them, she starts pounding the ground, trying to summon these worms. And then I kept thinking, why? And then it's like, oh, okay, now I get why she's doing it.
Right.
She's basically going to sacrifice herself. So I don't understand quite what the worms mean to the Fremen yet. That's the weird part.
They create the spice.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, but even for the Fremen, is the spice important? See, that's what they don't even bring up that part yet. All we know that the spice is making tons of money. That's all we know. And that's why I said, that's why I found this whole thing sort of confusing. I wish they could have included more narrative story. Absolutely. Characters are actually there. That's fine.
Right.
The drama's actually there too. Because even the Harkonnens, their head is really a bizarre creature. Because if I'm not mistaken, like in the first movie, he is supposed to be so big that he has to float around. And he's also sort of repulsive and disgusting looking.
Right.
And he's played by Stellan Skarsgård, who does, I think, a nice enough job with it, but he's just not in it. I mean, you don't get a real sense of character. All you get is who's loyal to whom at one point.
Absolutely.
So this is my only problem with it. And I don't know whether I'd recommend it or not. If you want to see the Dune movies, now I'm waiting for the sequel, which will hopefully fill in so much stuff that then it'll be like the Godfather movies. And I can watch Godfather Epic, where everything's in sync and you can see the whole thing as one story.
Right.
But like I said, I wasn't really satisfied with this movie, but I will say this: visually stunning, the sound quality stunning, everything to look and hear, whether it's the soundtrack, like you said, the sound editing, I thought was flawless. Much like the director, it's Denis Villeneuve, who did the Blade Runner sequel,
Yes.
Blade Runner
He's the
2049.
same guy, right? They're the
Yes.
same one?
And but see, he did Arrival, which I thought was one of my
Arrival
favorite
was
movies
great.
of the good.
That was great.
But that had more of a story driven, where this did remind me more of Blade Runner, where it's like, oh, okay, it's sort of dull, but it's great to look at, and
Yeah,
the
right.
sound. And I do mean that. I remember watching it at the theater, saying, "This is
Are
amazing."
you talking about the
soundtrack.
second Blade
The
Runner?
Blade
second
Runner
one.
2049.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. I have to finish it.
And but see, that's what I mean. It's like because it's such a dull story. Yet
I say the first Blade
Yeah.
Runner was not a
no,
good
no.
story.
Actually,
Oh.
the first Blade Runner was a
I
good
love
movie.
Blade.
Yeah.
The first one I loved.
Yes.
But so I will pass it on to see. I don't know if they're going to recommend it, but
Okay. So when I watched this movie, I was not familiar with Dune at all. I didn't read the book. I didn't really know anything about it, and every scene is conceptually a beautiful scene. It's like they concentrated more on the
Visual effects.
visual effects than the story. And I like the story to always be up front, no matter what you have to use to background it. And by about halfway through, I was very bored. And I didn't get it. I was lost.
And I had to tie her up to make her watch it.
What?
She kept
Yeah,
wanting
you
to
had to
leave.
tie me up.
Yeah, I know she's going. Was this over yet?
If I don't like a movie, I'll leave.
I'll be right back. Pass.
But the big thing is, with movies, you have to feel connected to somebody. And in this movie, I felt connected to nobody because they never concentrated on. All they concentrated on was every scene was visually effective, and not concentrating on being loyal to anybody in the movie, not being attached to anybody in the movie. So I didn't like it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could say that's for sure you didn't.
Yeah. Susie,
I was here. I'm a
Yeah.
witness.
She probably had
George?
explained a lot of it to you, didn't she?
Nobody explained
No,
it.
No,
the
okay.
movie.
Because they
I,
didn't know what was
I
going
had to
on
watch
either.
it twice. Oh,
Oh.
Oh
go
my
ahead.
God, you watched
Me,
it twice?
okay.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So, yeah, actually, the movie's very visual. It's huge. It's a movie I would recommend seeing on the big screen.
See, when you start out like that,
On
that tells you
IMAX.
something about
Yeah.
the movie.
But it is slow and it drags. Now, when I saw the movie, I first saw which I actually saw I think it's 1984 when the movie came out.
Hmm.
I might be aging myself. I saw it in the theaters.
So did I.
Sure
So
you did.
I.
But I
On
was
your
not,
mom's
but here's the thing: I
backpack.
saw it with friends, and like 20 minutes into the movie, all my friends walked out. I was left by myself. I finished because I have to finish it. No matter what it is, I'll finish that movie. So I have to. So when I saw it this time again, I saw it, I watched the 1984 one again,
Right?
and then right after I watched this one. Like I did
Oh,
like
you're
a 6-hour
good.
thing.
Wow.
So, but if I hadn't watched the 1984 movie again, I would have been lost in this movie too. Man, really, that movie was like a great primer for it because it really got me. Because that one has a completion. This one is part one. So I was like, okay, I
Oh
see.
my God, there's a part 2?
Well, this is not complete yet.
Oh God.
So that in the 80s one really explained things more in detail, even though the whole movie is like, it completes in itself. Now this movie, I think because when was the book written, in the 60s?
I believe so. Yes.
To me, the spice almost feels like it's oil.
It is
Right.
oil.
Yeah, okay, there you go. And it's like we're fighting
Doesn't
for it. We're
matter
like,
what the name
yeah,
is.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're saying we're fighting for it, and it has a. Now, of course, now it probably would be silicon because we need the
Right,
silicon
right.
for the chips.
Right.
So, and then I
Lithium.
go, when I'm watching Game of Thrones, they can't even go for the great characters right away. And okay, the Timothee Chalamet, his mother is obviously a witch, or she's a
Priestess.
It's a
priestess
priestess.
of this thing, and she was with the what's his face, Oscar Isaac,
Right?
Duke Leto.
Yeah.
So they have the child. Now she's told by the mother superior that she wasn't supposed to have a son. They're only supposed to have daughters.
Right.
So, but it really sets it up that she has the son. She teaches him the ways. Now, because she taught him the ways, or the Bene Gesserit, or
Right.
Yeah.
now the mother has to test him to make sure he can pass the
big test.
the test. Yeah, because he's a man that learned it. He was supposed to, in which he passes. So they're sending him out to be Neo, the
Right,
one.
Right.
So I enjoy the movie. Actually, I have seen it twice, and the second time, I the first time I saw this movie, I was kind of bored, and it's okay. But the second time I saw it, I liked it better
Really?
because I kind of I understood more things. So, but yeah, it just really drags, but it's visually stunning. I think they spent too much time on, and it's interesting because for how much dialogue it has and how it has a lot of dialogue. It's slow, but they're not telling you the story. It's like it's missing the story. So all this dialogue is going.
It's
all
all
over the
character
place.
interaction.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
It's not really story-driven dialogue.
No.
But so
And it needs to be because it's that kind of
yeah.
story.
So, but I would say I enjoyed it. But I actually enjoyed the '80s version more, except for the cheesy special effects that was kept cracking me up.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. I was talking to Alon and I was telling him that actually I was very disappointed in this movie because the actual Dune, I actually read. I don't want to age myself here.
She read
But
the
I
book.
actually read, but when I was very, very young. And it actually, you think of the sci-fi from that time, which was Isaac Asimov,
Right,
which was Heinlein,
right,
which was Arthur C. Clarke,
right,
which was also Frank Herbert,
right.
right? Anyways, so it's like this is a very complicated story. It's a story that they take from what's going on at the time. It's actually the Fremen in the movie
Right.
are actually supposed to be the Arab people like on Earth. You know what I
Right,
mean? And
right.
the spice is it will take you through time and space. In fact, they feed the pilots this from when they're babies and they do not look like people. They become totally it's a very interesting story and it's very geopolitical.
Like the
You know what
book.
I mean?
This is in the book.
Yes,
Right.
that's why I'm saying that they made it into a present day sci-fi. And one of my arguments about present day sci-fi, it's not got an interesting story. Like you think of Rod Sterling. You didn't need a lot of special effects. So what they did is sacrifice the
It was
story
totally on the story.
for the visual.
Yeah.
And the visual was beautiful.
It was, but it got in the way of everything else.
And I would say that the cinematographer, Greg Fraser, was amazing.
Sure, but they
The-
need the story.
The desert scenes was beautiful. Hans Zimmer did the music. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the
and the
soundtrack,
music was
yeah.
fantastic.
But I thought they had a lot of also slow-mo scenes with like him
Right.
scantily looking at the girl Zendaya, and it's like, am I watching a music video again?
I know, right?
So much slow-mo walking around.
So like George, the first time I watched this movie, I couldn't follow it because I read the book so long ago that I was hoping that it would
Catch you
remind
up.
me. Yeah,
Right.
it would go back in my mind. It was like the second time I enjoyed it.
You
more.
watched it 2 times?
I watched it 2 times.
Oh my God.
I
you're
watched it with
amazing.
you the second
I
time.
know.
Oh my God.
Um,
I can't watch it a second time.
As far as visually, the director Denis Villeneuve, is that what you say?
Villeneuve.
Whatever.
Villeneuve.
That's how I pronounce it. Villeneuve.
Thank you.
That's how I said it.
Did an outstanding job.
Really? You think he did a good...
I think visually he did a
Of making a
beautiful job.
cinematic
He made a
film.
beautiful
If that's all
film.
you got, I don't think it's good.
But this is really a very political,
Yeah, it's a very
mystical
political
story, which I feel they didn't do.
Right.
There's a lot of magic involved with the
Spice.
the spice,
Right.
and yes, so
and sort of even the politics, like you said, involved.
Yes.
Because, for example, the one thing
Absolutely.
they mentioned the emperor, who is talked about as well and seen in the first movie. He's non-existent in this movie.
well.
Right.
Also, the
So-
thing is that he was bringing them together because the Atreides,
Atreides,
House of
Atreides?
Atreides, yeah.
were becoming
Too
too
powerful.
too popular,
Oh, popular. I thought powerful.
and the
Harkonnen.
yes, we're becoming too powerful. He was trying to play them off against each
Each
other.
other.
Oh, okay.
That's
See, you have the insight of knowing because you read the book.
I found like Chalamet as Paul Atreides was quite good and represents the rather somber and even solemn lead character that Frank Herbert envisioned. He's kind of a
Right.
um,
Unemotional, detached person.
Yeah, it's just that I find that I like the movie visually. I thought they just didn't really capture the story very well at all, and most people will not be able to follow it at all.
Mhm.
It'll seem like a very simplistic story. It's not. It's really, really a
Yeah,
good
I'm
sci-fi.
surprised that you
Really
say it's
excellent
political,
sci-fi.
because I
So
didn't
good
get
that I actually hadn't read when I was much younger every book that Frank Herbert wrote.
Mhm.
He was so good. So
In fact, I do remember watching the TV. I wanted to see the TV series because I figured, oh, that will really cover everything.
Yeah,
So that's
right.
the one thing I regret not seeing now. So
I didn't see the movie.
There was a TV series.
yeah, on Sci-Fi
Really?
Channel.
Oh.
Yeah.
They
So-
probably did a
I'm
better
thinking
job.
of V.
Well, no, they like I said, they were at least all the politics between
Yes.
the houses
You-
and this
Yeah.
and that would obviously be there. So
When
And I was like,
grew-
and where's Sting?
when I grew up, yes,
Yeah,
when I
right.
grew up, they actually thought about using him in this movie,
Really?
but yeah, as a cameo
Oh.
for him. But that's one problem I have as a person who grew up loving sci-fi, is
Right.
that is that the stories were, we grew up with like sci-fi was B movies. There
Right.
wasn't an A movie sci-fi.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
I think
exactly.
2001 was like the first one.
Right.
Or something like that. But it was like they have great stories. That's why it kept you involved. These have sacrificed the stories. Like I said, that the aliens come, you fight them off,
Right.
and they're kind of
Invasion of the Body
and they're
Snatchers.
stupid
Right.
aliens,
Right movie,
and-
exactly.
and that's it.
Wait till you see.
So it's cowboys and Indians. That's
Yes.
that's what it is. So
Yeah.
it's like just. So I'm going to give this a chance. I will see the second one and see what.
Well,
I
the second
think.
one's gonna
believe
be.
you watched it twice.
That's how I exactly feel. It's like I do want to see the second one in hopes that okay, this was sort of set up because, like Patty was saying, that's all they're doing is setting up the characters. They're not telling
Right.
you any story, just setting up characters. But I did like the story enough to really. I just sort of wanted to know because, for example, spoiler, that Paul gets a sister. And the way she's born, at least in the first movie we saw, the Dino De Laurentiis film, it's like, okay, this character really intrigued me because she becomes extremely powerful because apparently his mother takes the spice for some reason and she's pregnant with this child. So when the child's born, she's sort of born in this advanced stage, but being one of these Bene Gesserit, very powerful.
But remember, the priestesses are the female line.
Right.
So
Please,
that-
nobody pick this Dune 2 as another movie.
It's gonna be Dune 2. Let there be carnage.
Because I'll be totally lost.
No way home.
Shall we rate it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're first.
5.
Oh.
That's, because of the special effects and still to the story, I'll give it a 7.
I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
What'd you give it, Susie?
I give it an 8.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm giving it an 8 and hope. But I thought visually and
After the
and
DUI.
music that there was other things that they forgot about the story altogether. And
That's
they,
the most
and
important
they,
thing to me.
Well, I would not be interested in a love story.
You know
First
me
of all,
either.
and B, a lot of fighting would not interest me.
Well, that might
So,
work for me, but,
therefore, those books did not contain a lot of that.
but
Mm.
in this movie, it contained nothing but special effects. to
No,
me.
I could be wrong because it was so many years ago, but it could be wrong. But I really think it had a lot more to do with the Fremen seeing things from
I
their
have no
point
idea. I
Well,
didn't
see, no,
point out.
no. Again, that's what I think you see. See, that's because again, spoilers. That's when Paul Atreides and his mother meet them
Right.
towards the end of this film. But you're right. I think the second film is all
It's
going to
probably
be
gonna be
about
about that.
that.
Yeah, it's gonna be about
Because
that.
don't forget too that at least in the Dino De Laurentiis, the Fremen are the ones who basically are going to take over they're going to reclaim their
Fremen are very
planet.
important.
Exactly.
The book starts, where he puts his hand in that box.
Right?
Oh, okay.
That's the first page of the book.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, and
Wow.
as I mentioned before, that's why I thought that was important because that's the
Yes.
test that Charlotte Rampling's character
Yes.
gives to Paul Atreides, the Timothée Chalamet character. I think that's a very important scene
Yes.
because it sort of really sums up what people are thinking.
Well, it
Mhm.
also hooks you into the book
Hmm.
Oh,
because
okay,
it's
yeah.
kind of
Didn't hook
like
me into the
it's like
movie.
yeah.
And it sets them up.
So do your thing.
Okay, so I guess yes, I have a
All
job
right.
to do
You
here
do.
that I forgot about. Okay, so this ends our podcast, our 49th podcast. I don't want to go into that 50. Anyways,
Yeah.
please remember to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. It helps our algorithm and everything.
It does.
You can hear an audio of this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, and SoundCloud. My voice is going because I was drinking the champ, but it was so good.
Yeah.
But my voice is going. Yeah, you can see this podcast on YouTube where you're seeing it now. And please go to our Facebook page and friend us on Twitter and Instagram at WTF. No, capital WT Flicks Pod.
Like,
Ah,
like you
like
see
us.
right there.
yeah,
Give us
right.
your
Yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah, and yes, thank you for all the people who've made suggestions. I have several.
I love their movies. Please recommend more.
Yeah,
Oh, did somebody? I missed that. What-
French.
Some quite a few French suggestions of French
Yeah.
films.
Oh,
Are we
great!
And
I love
another
that.
Indonesian one. Are we at
We're done.
okay? So
Adios.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye
Fishy
bye.